Guys, let's talk about Slipknot's next record. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? AJ Good here at the House of Masks, where we unbox and review cool stuff almost every single day. And in today's video, we are going to be discussing Slipknot's next album. More specifically, what I want out of that album. Now, first of all, I don't have any expectations. I really don't hold anything to any expectations anymore. I've definitely learned my lesson. Now, I know that that probably sounds like a negative thing right off the bat when you first hear it, but I promise it's not. It's actually led me to enjoying more things from my favorite bands or favorite movie franchises or TV shows than it would if I had just continued to expect certain things from them. Now, what I mean by this is I had a very high expectation for All Hope Is Gone by Slipknot. I was incredibly disappointed by that album. But when The Gray Chapter rolled around, I had no expectations. A really good friend of mine told me to just enjoy it for what it was. We were never going to get self-titled again. We were never going to get Iowa again. But if we just pretended that this was a new Slipknot and I had no expectations whatsoever for the next record, that I would end up enjoying it a lot more for what it was. So I did that, and that friend was 100% correct. The Gray Chapter scooped me right back in. Was it a perfect record? Absolutely not. Are there things about that record and that cycle that I don't like? Yes, absolutely. But is it one of my favorite record cycles? 100%. Because I went into it blind, I went into it without having any sort of expectations whatsoever, and it made it really, really fun to experience. So I just wanted to throw it out there that I don't expect anything from this record cycle. I don't expect anything from the next Halloween movie. I don't expect anything from the next Gwar album. If I go into these things with no expectations, it makes the payoff a lot better than it would be if I had expected something and just kind of drawn that up in my mind for an extended period of time. Slipknot is going to be Slipknot, Gwar is going to be Gwar, all of these things are going to be their own things, and we might as well just sit back and enjoy them for what they are. Now, with all of that being said, let's go ahead and talk about what I do want out of this next record. First of all, there is something that I want to be toned back a bit. I want less of the whiny, almost Stone Sour-ish choruses from Corey Taylor. Don't get me wrong, sometimes this works really well, and a lot of my favorite Slipknot songs have these whiny, high-pitched Corey Taylor choruses. It works really well in songs like Nomadic or Nero Forte. But then sometimes they're just a little too overdone. And not only are they overdone, but they can completely take you out of what would be a great song. Some great examples, in my opinion, of this are Override, The Orphan, Critical Darling. That song is so good, and then out of nowhere comes this really weird Scott Weiland Stone Temple Pilots chorus. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing necessarily, I just want to see less of it. That is a great song, and I would be lying if I said that I didn't enjoy the chorus to an extent. I just think that there's a bit too much of it going on, and a lot of times they can come right out of left field and take you completely out of the song. I think The Orphan is probably my biggest example of that from We Are Not Your Kind. Man, I really, really enjoy that song until that chorus kicks in.
We take the life and the workplace of I am not the same. You never let it blue my name. I'm not ashamed.
I just don't like it, man. Something else that I would like to see less of, and in this case just not exist at all, is talking in the songs. I have never been a fan of just speaking in songs, and it seems like Corey Taylor is becoming more and more of a fan of doing that. Custer. An amazing song, but there's just something about Corey Taylor speaking through the first part of that song that really doesn't do it for me.
Half alive and stark raving free and maligned for encroaching on the purpose of this commercial.
The Chapeltown Rag. Again, not a bad song by any means, but it's just got these really weird dead areas that are so awkward because it's just Corey talking.
Read all about it if you want to know. Read all about what they want you to know.
And I feel like we could just do without that. The song's going to be just as good, if not better, without that part. When we have these parts that take us right out of the mood of the song, it can really make for a poor listening experience. So right off the bat, just less whiny choruses and less talking in the songs. I cannot stress to you how much more enjoyable listening to those would be if those things did not exist. Next up, another Corey bit. I want Corey to be angrier. Now, the only reason that I bring this up is not because he doesn't sound angry in these records. It's just that I've noticed in a lot of features recently, he sounded way more angry than he has on an actual Slipknot record. And I personally just think that that is a waste because a lot of these features are on songs that suck. The best part of the song is Corey. And when Corey sounds angrier on a shitty song that he's only featured in, I would absolutely love to hear some of that effort and that anger come out on this new record. Alright, so the whole video isn't just going to be me complaining, even though these aren't complaints, they're just things that I don't want to see on the next record cycle. I know how you guys get. Time to talk about some positive stuff. Now, something that I've noticed on the last two record cycles is that there were way less guitar solos than on Volume 3 or on All Hope Is Gone. That is a great thing, because what is one fantastic thing that set Slipknot apart during the first two record cycles, Self-Titled and Iowa? No guitar solos. That wasn't something that any of us were used to hearing in rock or metal. Every song had a guitar solo, and Slipknot came along and just kind of put that to bed. And for some reason, this really benefited them. I find Volume 3 and All Hope Is Gone to be two of the weakest albums, and it's because they kind of conformed almost. Jim Root just started doing the same guitar solos over and over on those two records. It really got tiring and almost seemed like a chore to get through. But then the Gray Chapter came out and I noticed that there were barely any guitar solos on that record, and I rejoiced. Songs like the Negative One put me right back into the Self-Titled or Iowa feel. No guitar solos. It was a great thing. They kept that up with We Are Not Your Kind, and I was very grateful for that. So yes, the lack of guitar solos have really brought me back around on these last two Slipknot records, and I really hope that we see less guitar solos on the next album. This next one is something that I mentioned when We Are Not Your Kind was getting ready to come around, and it still holds true to this day, and I think We Are Not Your Kind was so good because we had so much involvement from Sid and Craig, but something that I want to see on the next record cycle is, again, more involvement from Sid and Craig. I am a really big fan of the hip-hop elements that Slipknot had, especially during the first two records, again, Self-Titled and Iowa, and I just really love everything that those two bring to the table, everything from the noise manipulation to the interludes, scratching, samples, all that stuff. I really enjoy that. Self-Titled and Iowa were obviously full of these, and We Are Not Your Kind was a real treat for somebody like me because we had tons of stuff like this. A lot of people complained about the filler songs and the interludes on that record, but those are some of my favorite tracks from it. So I feel like more involvement from Sid and Craig moves me right into my next want from the next record, and that is more interludes and more filler songs. Insert Coin was just beautiful. Loved that as an opening track. Death Because of Death, again, just something weird and funky and experimental. Absolutely love it. What's next? This is like Slipknot's version of elevator music. It starts off so normal and just gets so distorted and creepy without really trying to be creepy by the end of that song that I can't help but really enjoy what I'm listening to. And these are just opening tracks and interludes. So yes, I would absolutely welcome more stuff like this on the next record. And hopefully with Slipknot not being signed to Roadrunner, we get more stuff like this because they'll have more freedom to do whatever the hell they want. And last but not least, most importantly, I want Slipknot to just be Slipknot. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, dropping your expectations can make you enjoy something 1,000 times more than you did before, and that is definitely the case with Slipknot. I feel like I've just been breathed a new life into my love for that band ever since the Gray Chapter came out, and that's because I dropped all expectations and I just wanted Slipknot to be Slipknot. In the end, if they are happy and they are living their best creative lives through this band, then I'm happy as well. Does that mean that I'm going to love everything that they've done or will do? Absolutely not. But that's the beautiful thing about all this. It's just subjective. I'm sure that I'm going to be just as hyped for this album as I was when Volume 3 came out and I got to see Slipknot live for the first time. So with all that being said, that pretty much sums up my wants and desires from this next record cycle. Let me know what you guys think about my list, and let me know what your list is as well. Drop all that down below in the comments. Make sure to leave a like on this video. It definitely helps. And until next time, this has been AJ Good here at the House of Masks telling you to say no to drugs and alcohol and also to expectations. And we'll see you guys in the next one.